What in the world do I know about losing weight? Well, I lost 117 pounds, so that's what I know. So, what is it that I did? So, I'm going to do a quick video that just runs through it. And then, if you'd like, at the end, I'm going to give you a link to basically going over each one of these items if you're interested in getting a little bit more info. And also, at the end, I'll give you a link to a playlist, just kind of walking through these various videos that you've asked for. So, I am a certified public accountant, JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate you tuning in and listening. So, the first thing I want you to note is that you've got to do what just works for you. I do taxes for a living, so I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a nutritionist. But what I wanted to share with you is what I did. And the first thing I did is that when I decided what I was going to do, then I just did it, meaning I was consistent. So, whatever you take away from this and whatever you decide to do that one thing. Just be consistent. Whatever you decide to do, if you can do it 30 days, then you can do it 60, then you can do it 90, and then you're probably going to do it the rest of your life. The other thing I would encourage you to do is not set a goal for the weight you want to obtain. Just consistently follow whatever program you think is best for you. But what I found is all the years trying to lose weight, I'm 52 now, so put it at, somewhere around over 30 years of kind of getting overweight and not really losing it, but kind of never really finding anything that worked. But when I really, in the past, put my mind to getting to a certain weight, well, then I had a finish line, see? And then when I hit that weight, I was like, well, I'm done. It's just natural, right? Well, I hit the weight. Now I can go back to whatever I was doing, and then I just gain the weight back. I'm sure this sounds familiar to you. So, believe it or not, I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this program and then just keep doing it. And I'm just going to make it a lifestyle change. The next thing that I would encourage you to do is to not tell anybody what you're doing. That sounds odd, doesn't it? Now, I'm not telling you can't talk to your close personal friends and loved ones, but quite frankly, why? And the reason I say that is that you and what you eat and however you come up with what works for you to get to the weight that you want to be, whatever makes you feel good about yourself, it's really just you. It's just for you based on your body, your chemistry, your DNA, your emotions, your background, your childhood, which your spouse, your loved one, your partner in life, whoever, well, they're completely made up different from you. So what may work for them doesn't work for you, and vice versa. Now, why didn't I tell anybody about it? Well, the reasoning for it is that everybody, for whatever reason, then wants to give you their opinion of what it is they think you're doing and what works, what don't work. But my experience over 30 years was that I only heard what didn't work. And if I said I was doing this, then I was like, oh, you got to do enough of this and you got to do that and you got to do this. And none of this was ever from a medical professional or a nutritionist. It was just from others. So I decided, really, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to commit to it. It's a lifestyle change. I'm not going to have a goal with pounds in mind. And I'm not going to tell anybody because I'm just going to do it. I don't go around and tell everybody that I've decided to brush my teeth a little longer or turn off the water while I'm brushing my teeth and when I floss and how often I go to the dentist. I don't put it on social media to say, hey, I brushed my teeth today, was consistent, did it morning and night, maybe after lunch. Only to say, I know that we can get excited and proud and we feel good. But at the end of the day, does that really affect you in terms of meeting this lifestyle change? So then what did I specifically do? Well, the first thing actually had nothing to do with diet. What it had to do was finding a balance of my energy. Now, what does that mean? I had to get enough sleep. What I realized was because I wasn't getting enough sleep, my body required more fuel, which means it required more food. It required caffeine. It required eating late. And so our body has a balance to it. And I'm only telling you this from absolute experience and what worked for me, that if we're tired, we need more food. And our body's only designed to have so much food Because when we're eating the right amount of food, meaning what our body needs, well, then we naturally get to the weight that makes sense for you and what's healthy for you, which doesn't mean you have to be flat bellied. But with me, when I got that right amount of sleep, then I had balance to actually eat the right amount of food. The next thing that I did was that I decided when I sat down to eat how much I was going to eat. So if I'm at a restaurant, they might be very generous. They might have a set portion of what they're going to put on that plate, but that doesn't mean that that's what I'm going to eat. Because whatever's on that plate in 24 hours is going to end up in waste. I won't be crude about it, but think about it. No matter what, whether I eat that or not, it's all going to be pretty much out of my body within 24 hours, or it's going to be in the garbage, etc. So it's not wasting money. I get it. Other people might be hungry and I didn't eat everything on my plate, but I need to decide what it is that I'm going to eat. The next thing that I did is I just simply stopped when I was full. That meant I was paying attention to what I was eating by deciding in advance how much to eat, looking at it to go, well, that's about how much my stomach can fit, so that's how much I'm going to eat. The other part was when I was then stopping when I was full, a lot of times I would eat and I'd be like, I think that's enough. But it takes 10 minutes, as I've read and found to be true, for our brains to register that we're actually full. So I would stop when I was like, you know what, maybe I thought I could eat all that, but I'm going to kind of stop. I'm going to slow down a little bit, pay attention to what I'm doing so that I really am stopping when I'm full. The next thing I did was I decided I was only going to drink water. I get it. You might need some caffeine. My wife does. She only drinks water now. She got little supplements for the caffeine. So it can't be a reason that you won't drink water. You can drink whatever you want. But for me, I thought, you know what? We need water, right? Our body's made up so much of water. And most of us, we don't drink enough. And I was just like, I'm just going to drink water. Why? Because it's the healthiest thing. And I just simply removed all choices. I just said, I'm going to drink water, period. Not, I'm going to drink this on Friday nights or this is this. For whatever reason, people say, well, did you still drink alcohol? Yeah, maybe I have a drink once a month. But my point is that I only drink water and I still only drink water. The other part is I don't call this intermittent fasting, but I didn't eat after 8 p.m. and I didn't eat before 8 a.m. And the reasoning for that for me, though, was that my body needs to settle down for me to get to sleep, which is at 9:30 is my bedtime. I'm asleep by 10 p.m. each night, but my body needs to settle down. And what I found is that if I was eating, I was now providing energy for myself that kept me awake. And so I needed to stop at 8 so that there was a period of time that my body would stop digesting. I also found that if I was eating before bed, my body's not able to properly digest that given that I'm going to be laying horizontal. Now my body's not fully sleeping. It's not fully re-energizing and getting the rest that it needs because it's also now doing this function of digesting food. So I don't call it intermittent fasting. And if I found myself hungry after 8 in the beginning, really I needed to probably have some more water. Many times we think we're hungry when reality is we're actually thirsty. And then if I felt I still needed to have something, well, I might have just had a few nuts, maybe a little bit of apple or something like that. But I'm talking like this tiniest bit, but then also drink some water. But now I am just simply not hungry after having my dinner. The other thing that I did, and this is where you can really separate from what I did to do what makes sense for you, because it seems like most of these things you really could do, right? You could get enough sleep. You could just move forward with not telling everybody what you're doing so that you don't have to have opinions. You can decide how much you're eating. You can stop when you're full. You can drink a lot more water. You could stop eating after 8 and not eat before 8 or whatever works for you, or none of that. Really, you could do all that, meaning you could do all of that and still have Oreos and peanut butter cookies and steak and fried food and all that stuff. And I bet you would probably still end up losing weight because you wouldn't be overeating those things. You'd be stopping when you're full. You wouldn't be eating those things for energy. But where you may separate from me and you decide, hey, that's not going to work for me, for my DNA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what I decided to do was eat one ingredient food. What does that actually mean? One ingredient, meaning it was an apple. It was an orange. It was fruit. It was vegetables. And that is fresh. Yes, with dinner, we might have some frozen fresh vegetables, but most of the time it was fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, still to this day. The other part is that I just ate meat. Now, with that, it might be deli meat, but most of the time it's a whole combination of chicken and beef and shrimp and fish and just the whole gamut. I wasn't eating fried food because that's not single ingredient food. And I will tell you this, in the very, very beginning, I might have had a little bit of sauce on whatever I was eating or dipping, veggies into. But I'm going to tell you this, that after about 30 days, I didn't need and or want the sauce. It actually took away from the flavoring. I didn't add salt. Now, if you want to do any of those things, you can, because again, what I did for me worked for me. But in doing that single ingredient food, then I was just putting in really the what I would call the healthiest. Now, could there have been healthier because it was organic or things to that effect? Sure. And when I did, I could. Maybe you can't all afford that. Doesn't really matter because, again, like I said in the beginning, it's just finding what's consistent, what works for you, and then just being basically committed to it. So, the other thing that I did really once I got to where I had lost a lot of this weight was, and I started doing this because also I had a stroke back in 2001. That's what really spurred me to go, I've got to make a change, even though it took me about a year after the stroke to really fully commit to what it is that I'm telling you that I've done. But all that to say, that I went to my doctor and had to do blood tests to figure out what I was deficient on. And this is where everybody's going to be different. So you may say, well, what is it that you're taking? I'll just tell you it's the basics, right? D and B and omega 3, and I do a little bit of iodine, but it wasn't just doing it blindly. It was my doctor saying, yeah, you're deficient on this. You need a little bit more of this. And there's a couple other things that I take that are supplements that are a combination of things that's irrelevant to you. It's just that my body is deficient on those things. But then I get a blood test every 90 days to see where those deficiencies are. Do I need to cut back on something? So when I had my stroke, I was 272 pounds. Everything that I'm telling you, I got down to 155 pounds. No goal in mind. I thought, you know what, if I got to 200, I'd be happy. But I didn't set it as a goal. I just thought, well, if I get to 200, I'd be happy. That was it. And all of that to say that as I continued, I just continued to lose weight. At the time, at 272, I was wearing XL, maybe XXL. I had a size 18 neck. I had a 7.5 size hat size for my head. And my waist was probably around a 40, 42, kind of depending on the cut of the pants I was wearing. So where I'm wearing now is just all naturally progressed down. So I wear smalls in all shirts. My waist is a 30. Sometimes every once in a while, depending on the cut, it might have to be a 32. Now my head is just a little over 7. That's how much weight I had, was literally my head circumference changed. I'm a 15 neck, so I lost 3 inches off my neck. And one of the things that I'll just tell you in closing is that when I uh, got down to 155 pounds, probably when I hit about 200, meaning I had lost 72 pounds. What was interesting is I started having people voluntarily tell me to stop losing weight. And I said, well, I'm not even trying to lose weight. I'm just eating healthy, getting enough sleep, and drinking water only. My body's going to decide. I'm eating fish, red meat. I'm eating shrimp. I'm eating chicken. I'm eating lots. I'm just stopping when I'm full. I never measured one thing. I didn't deprive myself in the beginning. If I wanted to eat lots of broccoli and cauliflower, I did. But I listened to my body. My stomach was bigger as it shrank. I ate less of those things. And I automatically just want a balance of things. If I want red meat 2 nights in a row, well, then I do that. So I didn't pay attention to proportions other than, is my stomach going to be able to fit what is on my plate? Yes or no. And with all of this, again, it worked with my palate, what made sense to me. And all of this to say, as soon as people then started saying to me, well, what are you doing? I still kept with, well, I'm just eating healthy, just drinking water. I'm just stopping when I'm full. I'm just getting enough sleep. So I don't know what to tell you, but I did have to tell a number of people, I appreciate that you're concerned, but where were you when I was 272 pounds with a gut hanging over my belly. Why didn't you say anything to me then? Why is it that you now want to tell me that you think I'm too skinny when in reality I'm not, even if you think I am? What does that matter to me? Why does your opinion matter? Do you need to actually wipe the Cheetos off of your shirt because you're upset that somebody else has lost weight and didn't do it the way that you wanted to do it? How is that even relevant? Now, I will say this, I got down to 155 pounds and I was like, okay, I've hit this threshold. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm a little underweight. Now, all I was looking at was just kind of my face. And, some of you not, were kind enough to point out that I was skeleton and ugly and, oh my gosh, you're doing things wrong. And I can't believe you're telling people to do what you're doing and look at you, which is just kind of proof in my pudding. The only reason I point that out. Now, that was probably one comment to 100 comments of thanks and encouragement and appreciation for me sharing what I'm doing. But I only mention that from the standpoint that those that are watching you lose weight, I'm just going to be honest with you, they're just probably wanting to comment because they're jealous. I'm sorry to say it, but why else would somebody want to go out of their way to tell you that you're underweight? There's no way in the world, unless you are skin and bones, you're clearly anorexic, you have no bone muscle, right? That wasn't me in any way, shape, or form. So I did introduce back to having just a little bit of grains each day. Okay. And not brown bread per se, just kind of a little bit different every day, but just a little bit. So today I had a hamburger. Now, for almost 2 years, if I had a burger, I just took the buns off, ate everything with a fork and knife in between. But like when I had the burger today, I ate about a third of the bun. And if I'm somewhere having breakfast and there's a biscuit, I might have half of the top of the biscuit, just a little bit. See, but I'm still stopping when I'm full. And it got me up to 165 slowly, but I still do everything that I'm telling you. Stop at 8. I just want to stop at 8. I don't even have to try. I only drink water. That's all I want to drink. Well, I take it back. I will have some iced tea with my barbecue every once in a while, unsweet. But all the things that I'm telling you, just still stopping when I'm full. And I'll be I'll be honest, anytime I have a little bit of bread, I get full so much quicker. So all to say, I got up to 165. And what's funny is I still had people saying, you need to stop losing weight. And I said, well, I don't know what else to tell you. I've gained 10 pounds. In fact, I got up to 170. And then I was like, okay, I'm probably just eating a little too much of this bread. I probably don't have to have it every day. But here's what I want you to hear. I was just doing what made sense to me. And, so I'm most of the time 165. So from 272 down to 165. And here's what's interesting is that now that I'm at the weight where I'm at, I'm able to consistently wear the clothes that I'm at, and I feel good about myself, and I feel like I'm in the right space in my life. It's also for my own health, right? So, given that I told you I had a stroke, well, here's the deal. I had that stroke in October of 2021. I started really committing to lose weight in September of 2022. When I got to about November of 2023 is where I was about 170 or so, and then kind of went down to 155 going into the early part of 2024. And so I'm sitting good weight. My blood pressure's good. When I had the stroke, I was 180 over 125, just resting. It had been that way a long time with my blood pressure, obviously not good. And and the beginning, I did take high blood pressure med, don't need to anymore. Now, checking it regularly, about 125 over 75, give or take, on my blood pressure. And all of that to say that, and this is the part that you'll gasp and you go, oh my gosh, but up until about January, February of 2024, I didn't even do any exercising. Oh my gosh, just save it. I didn't do it. Why? Because I wanted to focus in on one thing. I didn't want to try and focus in on two things. I want you to remember I had a stroke. I couldn't tell time when I was in the hospital. So for me to now lose weight, I didn't need to also put pressure on myself to exercise. So just hold your comments. It's irrelevant. You don't need to tell me that I need to work out because guess what I'm doing? Walking. But it was when I got to the weight that I wanted to be because I thought I'm going to focus in on one thing here. I get it. You want to exercise, do it. How do you lose weight and not exercise? I don't know, but I did. Am I telling you not to exercise? No, then you missed the whole point of the video. I'm not telling you one thing to do. What I'm telling you is find what works to you. You want to work out every day and run? Awesome. I'm proud of you. That's phenomenal. I wish that I wanted to do that. I hate exercising. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to tell you. And I don't know how it affects your life, whether I exercise or not, because it doesn't. The other aspect is that when I then started doing walking, didn't really doing it with any consistency or any real cadence. I just now walk more. I do certain things to walk more. What is that? It's irrelevant. I'm walking, I'm active, right? So then when I got to that weight, and also my doctor said, now you've lost the weight, you need to gain some muscle. So really, when I got back to about 165, I had gained about 10 pounds of muscle from just walking. And that's where I kind of found that balance. Again, none of this necessarily applies to you. I would just say this in closing is that the two things to really take home from here. And so I wanted to save these two nuggets for those that made it to here that were actually interested in what I was wanting to share with you, and that are probably just going to take a few things and now apply it to your life. But I wanted to tell you these two last nuggets. The first thing to remember is that your weight has nothing to do with your self worth. Whatever your weight is, the value of you is exactly the same in every way, shape, or form. So I had to also remove that and go, you know what? The value of me, my emotion of why I'm eating, really, I needed to just disconnect it. How did I disconnect it? Well, I had a stroke, folks. I was in a near death situation, can't tell time, can't count backwards. Okay. So that's where you go, you know what? I need to stop worrying about this, and what people say and telling people what I'm doing and looking for admiration from others and good job from others and just go, I got to get this done, right? And that what my weight is has nothing to do with my self-worth. So it doesn't matter what you weigh. It doesn't matter if you ever get flat bellied. It doesn't matter if you're 272 and you get down to 250, how you feel about yourself. Don't connect it to what your weight is. And the reasoning for that I say this is that it's so easy to get hard on ourselves and disappointed. And if we pop back up in weight, that's one of the reasons I didn't weigh myself except maybe once a month. I was just curious as I was now getting into smaller clothes. So just separating that, if you could do that, even if you don't do anything else, and just realize your value has nothing to do with your weight. It doesn't. You're a beautiful person no matter who you are, no matter how much you weigh. 600 pounds, you're beautiful. You have a beautiful soul and you're touching lives. Whatever it is that you're doing has nothing to do with your weight. What you think other people are thinking about you, guess what? They're not. And if they are, it was for 2 seconds, because now they're back to their own lives worrying about what's going on in their world. So all that to say, you right now have wonderful value no matter what your weight is, whether it's good, it's muscular, you're in weight, or you're overweight. The second nugget that I'm going to tell you is that you've got to put yourself first. And what does that mean? What are we really talking about here? We're talking about basics, right? I'm talking about life survival basics, right? And that, putting yourself first for life survival basics, should never be seen as selfish. And anything that you're doing should never come before these basics in your life. What am I talking about? Sleep, what you drink, and what you eat, right? Like, you have to be hydrated, you got to have nutrition in your body, and you got to have sleep. So, I've got a video that's going to be coming out. It's called Life Diet. And what I'm talking about there is what I also had to do in my business at the same time I was doing all these things, is that I had to make sure that I was putting myself first, my health, my sleep, my food, my drink. I had a work schedule that many times I'd go all day without eating, then I'd eat 3 meals at night. Or I would overeat when I felt good and I had my self worth tied up into all of that. But it was also because I had too many things going on in my day. Why? Because I couldn't say no. I got a lot of self worth from helping a lot of people and getting the attaboys for doing things in my business, making money, saving people taxes. And my point is that I was putting those things before myself. Here's something that's going to blow your mind, and it's definitely not popular if you say it to anybody else, but it's okay for you to think it when you lay your head down at night, because nobody knows what you're thinking. But it is okay that when the kids go to bed, you go to bed. You got dishes to do, you got laundry to do, you got something to get ready for the next day, you got homework to clean up, you've got emails. Do you really have to do it? Meaning, if you get all of that done, and I'm going to tell you why I had the second stroke. Get all of that done, right? But you're not with us as long as you could be. You don't get to see your grandkids grow up as long as you could potentially. Why? Well, because I had to check the email. I had to do the laundry. I had to follow up with this, and I had to do this. And now I want to finally sit down and watch a show. And that's okay. Do all that. If you want to do it, do it. I'm just giving you some permission to say that you can put yourself first. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Giving you permission to be selfish on these three basic things: sleep, water, nutrition. It's okay to put yourself first. Meaning, okay, I'm going to take the time, even though we're coming home at 9 o'clock from our kids at some game, to make sure that I'm going to take an extra few minutes to eat properly or whatever that takes. What do you got in your day that you can't get to sleep on time? It needs to cut out. Well, I can't cut that and I can't cut that. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Why? Because you need to live longer. We need you around. Talking to somebody that had a stroke. So here's the deal. Even though I had the stroke and recovered from that, lost all the weight and got healthy, and I wasn't even working overtime, but I was still carrying too many things, even in the hours that I was working. So I had to stop working overtime. I worked in a profession doing taxes during tax season where I worked a lot of hours, about 3.5 months of the year, and then 2 months in the fall. As in working till midnight, all nighters, working 7 days a week, just mean working a lot and doing a lot of different things. When I had the stroke, my neurologist said, "How long do you want to live, son? You need to stop working overtime forever, not just next tax season, forever." So I did, but I was still carrying too much during the day, still doing too many things. So in March of 2024, on the 9th, I had a second stroke. And really, what that was is related to stress. And how? Well, in my next video, I'm going to break that down. It's called cortisol and the issues related to that. And unfortunately, with my first stroke, it's our hunch. Can't necessarily prove it, but based on facts and circumstances, good education of medical guesses, and if you will, I've got an issue with cortisol. And so I not only had since then to really just avoid working overtime, but I've had to now take it a step down and really focus on one thing at a time and even go into that next step of really putting myself first. So, with that being said, I appreciate you for listening to hear all that. I hope that you found something, even if you just heard, well, he did it his own way. I'm going to do it my own way, and you do something completely different. Great. That's the whole point of this video. Find what works with you and then stick with it. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met anybody quite like you, and you've never met a CPA quite like me. You have a great one. All right. Hey, check out these playlists wherever you've got it here for the weight loss, as well as then this other video, wherever I put it, talking further about these matters. Have a great one.